A man's anima is his guide to the eternal feminine. When he encounters it in reality, he cannot resist its pull. What if I told you that the most magnetically attractive women aren't trying to be attractive at all? That there's a hidden psychological force so powerful, so intoxicating, that when a woman unknowingly embodies it, she becomes absolutely unforgettable to men. Carl Jung discovered something remarkable about the human psyche, that every man carries within his unconscious mind an image of the perfect woman. Not based on looks, not based on what society tells him to want, but something much deeper, something primal. And when a real woman accidentally triggers this psychological archetype, she doesn't just attract him, she becomes his obsession. In this video, I'm going to reveal the 5 forbidden layers of feminine psychology that Jung identified as the most powerful forces in human attraction. These aren't dating tricks or manipulation tactics. These are deep psychological principles that work at the level of the unconscious mind. Some of these secrets will shock you because they go against everything modern dating advice teaches. But by the end of this video, you'll understand why certain women become absolutely unforgettable while others, despite being beautiful and accomplished, fade into background noise. Stay until the end, because the final secret doesn't just make you irresistible, it transforms how you see yourself forever. Before we dive into the secrets, you need to understand what actually creates obsession in the male mind. According to Jung, every man has what he called the anima, the feminine aspect of his unconscious. This isn't about gender roles or stereotypes. It's about psychological completion. The anima represents everything a man unconsciously yearns for but cannot access within himself: emotional depth, intuitive wisdom, nurturing energy, and mysterious feminine essence. When a woman enters his life who naturally embodies these qualities, not by trying, but by simply being authentically herself, something extraordinary happens in his psyche. She becomes a mirror for his soul's deepest longing. This is why some relationships feel instant and intense, while others never spark that deeper connection. It's not chemistry, it's psychology. It's the activation of archetypal forces that have been programmed into human consciousness for thousands of years. But here's what's fascinating, and what your competitor's video missed. The women who trigger this most powerfully are never the ones trying to be perfect girlfriends. They're the ones living so authentically that they become psychologically irresistible. The first secret is what I call psychological unavailability. And it's not what you think. This isn't about playing hard to get or being cold. It's about something much more profound. Jung discovered that we're most drawn to what we can't fully possess or understand. In psychology, this is called the Zeigarnik effect. Our minds become obsessed with incomplete experiences. A psychologically unavailable woman isn't mean or distant. She's simply complete within herself. She has rich inner worlds, personal missions, creative projects, and spiritual depths that exist independently of any relationship. When she's with you, she's fully present. But you always sense there are chambers of her soul you haven't entered yet, not because she's hiding them, but because she's genuinely complex and multifaceted. Think about it. The most memorable people in your life weren't necessarily the ones who gave you everything. They were the ones who made you feel there was always more to discover. Modern women often make the mistake of becoming completely available, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, the moment they like someone. They share their entire life story, their deepest fears, their future plans, all in the first few dates. But mystery isn't about withholding information. It's about having so much depth that no one person could ever fully explore all of you. Your competitor talked about emotional contrast, but I want to go deeper into what Jung really meant by this. The second secret is emotional fluidity, the ability to move through your full spectrum of emotions without apology or explanation. Most people, especially women, are taught to be consistent, pleasant, and predictable. But Jung understood that humans are inherently contradictory beings. We contain multitudes. The most captivating women Jung studied weren't always happy, always sexy, or always anything. They were authentically human, which means they were sometimes joyful, sometimes melancholy, sometimes fierce, Sometimes gentle, sometimes contemplative, sometimes playful. This isn't mood swings or instability. It's emotional authenticity. When you allow yourself to feel and express your emotions naturally, without filtering them through, "What will he think?" you become psychologically fascinating. Men are unconsciously drawn to this because most people in modern society wear emotional masks. We're all pretending to be fine, happy, or in control all the time. But when you meet someone who dares to be genuinely human, who might laugh deeply at something silly, then grow quiet and reflective when discussing something meaningful, it's like meeting a real person in a world full of mannequins. The key is that these emotional shifts aren't performed for effect. They're genuine responses to life. You're not changing your emotions to manipulate him. You're simply allowing your emotions to be honest expressions of your inner experience. Here's where Jung's work gets really interesting, and it's something your competitor completely missed. Jung believed that feminine energy, regardless of gender, carried something he called intuitive wisdom. This is the ability to sense deeper truths that logic and reason can't touch. Women who embody this naturally seem to know things without being able to explain how. They sense the emotional undercurrents in situations. They understand people's motivations intuitively. They can feel when something is right or wrong, even when it doesn't make logical sense. This isn't about being psychic or mystical. It's about being deeply connected to your intuitive intelligence and trusting it. When you operate from this place, when you trust your gut feelings, when you can sense what someone really needs, when you understand emotional dynamics without having them explained, you become almost otherworldly to most people. Men are particularly drawn to this because masculine energy tends to be analytical and logical. When they encounter someone who operates from a different type of intelligence, one that can see truths they miss, it's both fascinating and complementary. But here's the crucial part: this only works when it's genuine. You can't fake intuitive wisdom. It comes from years of learning to trust your inner knowing and being willing to be guided by something deeper than surface-level thinking. The fourth secret is perhaps the most counterintuitive fear: self-loyalty. Jung wrote extensively about the importance of individuation, the process of becoming your authentic self rather than who others expect you to be. Women who truly embody this have what I call uncompromising standards, not about what they demand from others, but about how they treat themselves. They won't abandon their values to keep someone interested. They won't pretend to like things they don't like. They won't minimize their achievements to make others comfortable. They won't tolerate disrespect, even subtle forms of it. This creates an incredible psychological dynamic. When someone encounters a person who clearly values themselves highly, it triggers what psychologists call social proof. The unconscious assumption that if someone values themselves, they must be valuable. But it goes deeper than that. A woman with fierce self-loyalty becomes a standard. She shows others what's possible. She demonstrates what it looks like to live with integrity and self-respect. Men often say they're drawn to confident women, but what they're really responding to is this quality of self-loyalty. It's not arrogance or superiority. It's the quiet certainty that comes from knowing your worth and refusing to compromise it. This is magnetic because it's rare. Most people, men and women alike, will bend themselves into pretzels to be liked or accepted. But when you encounter someone who clearly likes and accepts themselves, it's both inspiring and attractive. The final secret is the most profound, and it's based on Jung's most important discovery, the integration of the shadow. Jung believed that every person has aspects of themselves they've rejected, denied, or hidden, both positive and negative qualities. Most people spend their lives pretending these shadow aspects don't exist. But the most psychologically fascinating women are those who have done the inner work to acknowledge and integrate their shadow sides. This means they're not trying to be perfect. They're not pretending to be purely light and love. They acknowledge that they can be selfish sometimes, that they have dark thoughts, that they're capable of jealousy or anger or pettiness, and they don't hate themselves for it. This integration creates a paradoxical effect. They become both more human and more divine. more relatable and more mysterious, more approachable and more powerful. When someone has done this shadow work, they become psychologically complete in a way that's incredibly rare. They're not projecting their rejected aspects onto others. They're not trying to be someone they're not. They're simply authentically, fully themselves. This is the ultimate feminine magnetism, according to Jung, not perfection, but wholeness. Not being everything to everyone, but being completely yourself to the right person. Here's what Jung understood that modern dating advice misses completely. True attraction happens at the level of the soul, not the ego. You don't become irresistible by learning techniques or strategies. You become irresistible by becoming so authentically, unapologetically yourself that you naturally trigger those archetypal longings in others. The women who obsess men aren't the ones trying hardest to please them. They're the ones living most fully as themselves. They're psychologically unavailable because they're complete within themselves. They're emotionally fluid because they're honest about their human experience. They operate from intuitive wisdom because they trust their inner knowing. They maintain fierce self-loyalty because they understand their own worth. And they've integrated their shadow because they've done the inner work to become whole. This isn't about manipulation or control. It's about becoming such a complete, authentic, psychologically integrated person that you naturally attract those who resonate with your energy. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." When you do this work, when you become genuinely, authentically, completely yourself, you don't just become attractive to others. You become magnetic to your soul tribe, irresistible to those meant for you, and completely unbothered by those who aren't. If this resonates with you, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. Leave a comment telling me which of these 5 secrets spoke to you most deeply. And here's my question for you to reflect on. Are you ready to stop trying to be what you think others want and start becoming who you truly are? Because that's where real magnetism begins. The feminine overcomes the masculine through stillness and softness,